بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Ahsant, mashallah, brother Amir, such a beautiful recitation. As always, may God accept your, beautiful recitation of Dua Kamal. Inshallah, welcome everyone to UCL and SOAS InterAbsoc DKDC. And my name is Zamorad, and I'm hosting this event together with my co-host Salaam, and I'm representing UCL here. Salaam, if you want to introduce yourself.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, everyone. My name is Salim. I'm a student at SOAS, and I'm the president of SOAS ABSOC. And inshallah, me and Zamarud will be more than pleasured to invite everyone today to our DKDC event, inshallah.
Inshallah. First of all, if some of you, I know some of you might be in some exceptional circumstances and you can't turn on your camera, but if some of you can please turn it on, then we can try to make it more realistic, closer to what we have every. I know we are in very different circumstances when we are trying to make most out of it. So if some of you hopefully can turn on your camera, that would be amazing. Because it wouldn't be like us and the speakers only speaking with a few names, inshallah. Just to give you a little background about what's happening this week. This is an InterAbsoc DKDC, but we're also doing our Imam Hussain Awareness week throughout the week. And the whole idea is, we do this every year, and to raise awareness around the principles of Imam Hussain, what Imam Hussain stood for. And this year theme we have chosen is the Shi'a oppression happening in Pakistan and beyond. And we have been doing events. We had an event with UCL Pakistani Society where we discussed the issue in a discussion circle. And then after that, we also had an event recently on Monday, and I'm sure many of you did attend that event, where sorry about that. So where we discussed the Shia oppression happening in Pakistan and beyond. And we were joined by UCL Pakistani Society, SOAS Al Society, Harvard Islamic Society. And it's like continuation of these events. And the whole aim is for us to raise awareness about this whole ongoing issue in Pakistan. So inshallah, today's event hopefully will be useful as well. There's also one more thing. We are planning to do a charity appeal for the families who have been affected by this oppression. The idea was to do the charity appeal during this week, but we had a few technical difficulties. So we will be doing that in very, very near in future. I'll be announcing those details later on. So make sure you watch out for that on our Instagram and social medias. So today's event, we have been joined by Brother Taki Haider, who's joining us from Pakistan. So he'll be speaking first. And he's also a university student like many of us. But the situation is that he is in Pakistan, and he's also a very active member of his, university's Ahlul Society. I believe they call ISO there. And then he will be sharing his experience of how does he feel about living in Pakistan as a Shia Muslim while going through all these, oppressions, because since 1963, according to an estimate, more than 23,000 Shias have been killed in Pakistan, and this is only an estimate. The actual figure is believed to be much higher than this. And also very recently, in start of the year, I'm sure many of us are aware that more than 11 or around 11 Shia coal miners from the Hazara community specifically, they were literally slaughtered only because they were Shia. So Brother Taki Haider will be sharing more of his experience, and I believe he's been working with many of the families who have lost their loved ones, who have many of the loved ones got killed in this oppression. So inshallah, he will be sharing his perspective on this. And then after that, we have Shaykh Musharaf Hussaini joining us, inshallah, hopefully. And Shaykh Musharaf is someone, who is a scholar and a Pakistani activist. And he will be speaking about his experience and why this oppression is, and how, the history behind the Shias in Pakistan and around those topics. So, inshallah, Brother Taki Haider, if you are ready, then, it's all yours.
Thank you, Brother Zamarud. I hope my voice and video are all clear.
Yes, it's good.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم والآن أعداهم أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum everyone. As the respected brother Zamrud Abbas has already introduced me, my name is Taki Haider. I am a third year student of metallurgical engineering at UET Lahore. I have been asked to present my perspective as a Shia living in Pakistan and what does a Shia think and what his reaction is when any attack or an incident happens which is aimed as an oppression against Shias. As the history of Shia oppression would be already presented by our respected speaker, Shaykh Musharaf, I would only be presenting some clarifications as I think are necessary when you have to study about the Shia oppression in Pakistan. My first point would be that whenever a news is reported by the media outlet, it is made so obvious that the Shia community in Pakistan is so oppressed that it becomes an insignificant minority. My first point is that whenever we go and see a news regarding Shias in Pakistan, we should not think of them as an insignificant minority. The Shias in Pakistan have a very bright history and, inshallah, very shining future. And why do I say that? That's because we have had leaders like Mufti Jafar Hussain and Allamah Shaheed Arif Hussain Al-Hussaini, Dr. Muhammad Ali Naqvi, and many more to name. These leaders not only shaped the history of Pakistan, but also gave awareness to the youth and the coming generations of Pakistan. Their teachings can be seen even today, as you can see that the Shias of Pakistan are present in each and every sphere of society, be it from the workforce, be in academia, be it even in the government official positions. The Shias of Pakistan are not to be considered an insignificant minority. Furthermore, the Shia community in Pakistan is also one of the most peaceful, educated, literate, and even the most mobile society in Pakistan. You would see the Shias of Pakistan standing up, raising their voices for any event, be it against Shias, be it against Sunnis, be it against any Muslim, be it against any minority in Pakistan. You would find the Shias of Pakistan standing first and foremost. Another thing which I would like to clarify when we are studying the history of Shia oppression in Pakistan is that the Western media outlets specifically aim to showcase this oppression as it is a Sunni Shia sectarian issue. My perspective is that it is not a Sunni Shia issue. Instead, it is an oppression, a genocide against Shias by a very minute amount of people, a minority even in Sunnism, which, as it is famously called, the Takfiri group. The Pakistani community, the feelings of coexistence, the feeling of unity, the feeling and the thought of working together for common causes, it is a mutual thought between both the Sunnis and Shias of Pakistan. One recent example, which, as Brother Zamurud mentioned, was the protest against the Hazara killings, uh, where 11 coal miners were killed mercilessly. Their only crime was that they were Shia and they belonged to the Hazara community, which made them very accessible to be identified and then killed. The protest against these killings actually started as a Shia cause, with only as a majority Shias were involved in this cause. But if we go further, the protest actually lasted for like 2 weeks. After like almost 3 days, the whole of Pakistan started condemning these issues. The whole of Pakistan, regardless of their ethnicity, regardless of their culture, of which Islamic school of thought they belong to, which class of society they belong to, they all stood up against this oppression. The Pakistani issue, the oppression in Pakistan against Shias, is not a Sunni Shia issue as said by most of the Western outlets. After that, another point which I was asked to mention was what does the families of the martyrs of Pakistan, especially the martyrs of the Hazara community, the families, what do they have to say about all these events? First of all, the families of the martyrs are determined, they are motivated, and their willpower was not injured at all due to these events. And this is why, and this is because, as Imam Sajjad famously says, Al-Qatlu lana karama, Al-Qatlu lana aada. Killing for us is a habit, but it also is also an honor in the form of martyrdom. The families of the Shias in Pakistan consider it an honor in the meaning of its word. So their hope their hope for a better future does not go away, even if these, as we all know that 5 or 6 years ago, there were a lot of events like this. They happened on a monthly basis, but still, the families, the Pakistani Shias, did not move 1 inch away from their loyalty to their motherland and to their religious identity. Yes, we do realize that our beliefs might disrespect you, might you might have an issue with us, but those beliefs, those disagreements are supposed to be talked on a table, not through guns, not through explosives, not through suicide bombings, not all through all that. We, the Shias of Pakistan, believe in mutual dialogue. We believe that we can coexist, we can work together as Muslims do in all parts of the world. This is all I have to say. I am available for any questions which the panel or the audience might have to ask.
Thank you, Brother Taqi Haidar, for that beautiful little talk. Inshallah, like the brother just said, we will be opening up the floor for anybody to actually ask the brother any questions, especially since he's like a first-hand primary individual that's living in the region where all these attacks are taking place. So if anyone wants to ask a question, please raise your hand and we'll unmute you, inshallah. Any questions? Okay, can someone unmute Brother Sajjad, please?
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. السلام.
The brother's muted. Can someone unmute him, please? Sajjad.
Am I mute?
Yeah, speak now, inshallah.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Taqi Haidar.
Wa alaikum assalam, Brother Sajjad.
You mentioned that that is not a Sunni and Shia oppression that is going on. The Sunnis are not actively oppressing the Shia to Ali. I was just trying to get clarification on that because I always assumed that, you know, whenever I see my brothers in Pakistan being murdered, that they were being murdered by, you know, Al-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, walking the streets chanting, you know, death to the Shia and other type of slogans which we're all too familiar with. So could you clarify what you meant by that? Because I didn't understand.
Thank you for the question, Brother Sajjad. What he actually meant was that the issue on the layer, on the surface, should not be considered as a battle between the Sunnis and Shias on a theological and belief level. There exists a minority, and even people who read about the Pakistan history would know that this group, these specific groups, 2-3 groups, which I might say, exist, and they are the ones responsible for changing the minds of ordinary citizens. As you can say that an ordinary person, an ordinary Sunni or ordinary Shia, wouldn't have any problem with coexisting with another, no matter what the difference they have. The problem exists when some individuals go on the pulpits, go on the stages, and then start to excommunicate any member from the Islamic society. They can be Shias, even though there exists a lot of difference between Ahmadi Muslims, even in theological matters, but calling for the killing of any person you deem to be kafir, you deem to be an infidel, is not justified by Islam. So all I'm saying is that only a minority group is to be considered responsible for all of this. We cannot, as Shias, we cannot tolerate any hatred in our own hearts for a majority. We as Shias have to coexist and cooperate with them. I hope that makes it clear.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, yeah, definitely, because yeah, Alhamdulillah. I was just thinking about that, and yeah, it's definitely the Taghut is definitely hard at work, and we have to be more aware than what we are. We definitely need to open our eyes as to what is really going on. So may Allah bless you. Thank you.
Jazakumullah.
Okay, we have a second question from a brother on the chat, and inshallah after that we will let brother Bilal ask his question. The question from Mowgli is, why is the Pakistani government so hesitant to call out sectarian-based violence?
Okay. Actually, the problem on a government level is that you have to adhere to a bloc on a geopolitical level. Like, you know that in this era, and in an era of Cold War, in an era where the only aim of a nation is to secure as many allies as you can in a specific region. This applies to each and every nation in the world, be it a Western country, be it in the East. The first and foremost thing is that the Pakistani government, as our speaker Shaykh Musharaf would also be explaining, has underwent a phase. I don't think it would be any problem mentioning this. In the neighborhood, we have Iran, a Shia majority country, which underwent an Islamic revolution. The problem was that Pakistan and Afghanistan, these both countries being neighbors of Iran, had became a ground for a proxy war between Iran, which became became anti-West. But the Western governments would not tolerate that another ally. Iran before the Islamic government was a very staunch ally of the West. But when we see that if a neighborhood has changed and the ideologies can also be implemented on another neighboring country, they cannot afford it. So Saudi Arabia, being the ally of the West for as long as it existed, it made sure that this ideology, that this Shi'i revolutionary Islamic ideology does not propagate to the masses. And what's the best way to alienate that ideology, than making it look like the other? You hate the other. You make it look like it's something that would infect your minds. And that's what happens in the government. It becomes the government has to follow a block. It exists in one or the other block. And that is also with the government officials. Even the Shia officials cannot declare their position so clearly. I hope that answers a little bit.
Thank you. Because we're running short on time, we only have like 3-4 minutes left for questions. So I'll let Brother Bilal ask his question, inshallah. Brother Bilal?
Sorry, I had it unmuted. Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah for your presentation. You mentioned that it's only a minority which has this extreme outlook and there's the kafiri mentality. And that is kind of reflected within the mainstream. So when we look at events like Ramadan or Muharram, and we see on mainstream news programs or religious programs, Sunni and Shia scholars side by side presenting their views, going through historical matters, or discussing questions which may be relevant from a purely Islamic perspective, not a political perspective. And they're very amiable with one another. So there's obviously a vacuum which is being filled by these extreme minorities. How can this vacuum, how can they be removed from that vacuum, and the tolerance that exists within the broader mainstream take that place and remove the oxygen from these groups?
Actually, thank you for the question. As our respected Shaykh Musharaf Hussaini has joined, I will not take much of his time. Your question is, how can we remove the vacuum present between a minority of the Sunnis that actually actively hate the Shias and a majority that have no like apparent issue with coexisting with the Shias? The problem, the most probable solution is dialogue. What can I or what can you as a Shia do to propagate what they, the Takfiris, say are heretic views, or something that if we are to believe them, we are to be called infidels. We have to engage on a personal level, on a at our colleges, at our universities, at our societies, to be to engage in a dialogue with them. And believe me, this majority does not actually know what we truly believe. So many false rumors, so many myths are actually spread between them that they do not know what's true and what's not. This vacuum, as you mentioned, that in Ramadan and in Muharram, Shia scholars and Sunni scholars sit together on a table and discuss their beliefs openly. Not as open as you think, but it gives a sense that these people, these Shia community, is actually as Islamic as any of the other school of thoughts can be. Why does this minority, these programs make the masses, make the majority Sunni question that what we have been taught and what we have been told about this group, this minority, is it true or not? And if we as a Pakistani and we as Shias go on the stage and be an active member of the society as Shias and have no shame in accepting our Shia identity, then I don't think it would be a problem to propagate the true image and the true message of what we believe in and who we believe in. If we present to them the characters we believe in, for example, just as this program is. I hope that answers Brother Bilal's question.
Ahsantum. Thank you very much, Brother Taqi. Unfortunately, because we're running short on time, if anybody has any remaining questions, we can pass them onto the Q&A with Shaykh Musharaf, inshallah. Inshallah now, SOAS ABSOC and UCL ABSOC will be presenting Shaykh Musharaf Hussaini, inshallah, who is an Islamic scholar and activist who has extensively researched in the Islamic movement of Pakistan and was actually a student of Al-Allamah al-Shaheed al-Sayyid Arif al-Hussaini. So let's welcome him with the last salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, inshallah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. Habibi ilahil alamina nabiyyina wa shafi'ina wa tabibi qulubina Abil Qasim Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أعداء الدين. أما بعد فقد قال الله تعالى في كلامه المجيد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن الناس من يشري نفسه ابتغاء مرضات الله والله رؤوف بالعباد. Please write a salawat on Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wherever you are. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Today, my lecture, I would like to, in the first phase, we would like to go through Shia in its origin. Where does it start from? Then a little bit of history, and then the present day coming, how did Islam and Tashayyu came to Sindh and Pakistan and present day Indian subcontinent, and what stages it has gone through and what we are looking to in our next time period in the near future and in the future. First of all, the ayah Sharifah which I recited, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَشْرِي نَفْسَهُ ابْتِغَاءَ مَرَضَاتِ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ رَؤُوفٌ بِالْعِبَادِ. Surah Yusuf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is defining that among the people there are certain people who sell themselves for the sake of Allah themselves, and Allah is the most compassionate. So it's Surah Baqarah, ayah number 207. And in this ayah Sharifah, this was revealed about when Amirul Mu'mineen ﷺ was asked by Rasulullah at the time of Hijrah to sleep on the bed of Rasulullah, and Rasulullah went for his Hijrah to Medina from Mecca, and Rasulullah slept the whole night on the bed of Rasulullah. So Allah says that there are people who sell themselves, yashri nafsahu, their nafs, their selves, for the sake of Allah to Allah. And then wallahu raufun bil ibad, Allah is very compassionate for the people, for the abd of Allah subhanahu ibad, for the people. So usually what we understand is that this is meant for Amirul Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam, that Allahu raufun bil ibad. But I was hearing one of the scholars, and he defined that no, this is Allahu raufun bil ibad, that the people like Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam and his followers, these are the ones who are protecting the whole humanity throughout the history. If we see at the time of Hazrat Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, the people were under the clutches and under the tyranny of Fir'aun. And Allah sent Hazrat Musa alayhi salam and his companions to relieve those people who were under the tyrannic rule of Fir'aun, who killed their sons and let live their daughters for their entertainment or to make them their maid girls or their kanis. So this was Allah who sent as a blessing Hazrat Musa alayhi salam. Similarly, Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam, if he would not have been there, his time period would not have been there, people would have followed the Jahiliyyah again after the period of Rasulullah, so the humanity would have come to an end. This is a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything is a blessing of Allah. Allah introduces himself with the names of Rahman and Rahim. Even the storm that came, the tufan that came at the time of Hazrat Nuh was blessing, because the people were full of killing and murdering and chaos and such things in the society. If that would have continued and Allah would not have destroyed those people, see what would have been the condition of the human race today. It would have vanished years back. So this is a blessing. These people are the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They burn themselves like the candlelight, like a candle, but they give light to the society and protect the society from evildoers and wrongdoers and the tyrants and the suppressors and oppressors of the time. Same is the case we see in Karbala with Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam. The followers of Ahlul Bayt, the followers of the Shayyub, the Shi'a of Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam have been doing this for years. And the materialistic people who gain power and try to gain power, through their armies, by any means, they want to grab power and grab control of the world. It's no harm if somebody grabs it, but they themselves are the slaves of their ego, of their worldly desires. A slave becomes the ruler, he will enslave everyone. So if the people became slaves of their worldly desires, they lose their track to become the abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They can't serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They can't join Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To join Allah, we need to be free from everything. Only free men in history have been able to join Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why anybody coming into the ranks of Islam, he said tashahhud, ashhadu an la ilah. There's no Lord. This is the first important portion. You can't say I accept Allah and I accept other things also. It can be shirk. There are two deens in the world. Belief in Allah as been defined in Quran as amanu, and the next one is kafaru. Inna lazina amanu wal lazina kafaru. Amanu are those who have got a firm belief in Allah, and kafaru are those who negate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now negation is of three types. Once they openly negate, they say we don't believe in Allah. That's kufr. There are some people who say, oh, we accept Allah, and beside Allah, they accept other things also. They accept their hawas or ego, their self-desires also. So this is having lords besides Allah is shirk in any form, whether they're doing it theoretically or they're doing it practically. This again shirk. The third one is that when they come to the Muslim, they say, oh, we are the believers. And when they go away and they face the other side, they get impressed by them, or they don't have that firmness in their belief, or they don't have that strength in themselves to say, oh, we don't believe in your things. So in front of Muslims, they are Muslims. When they go to others, they become like them. They are like hypocrites. They are like munafiqeen. So we have got mushrik, we have got munafiq, and we have got kafir. And the other ones are amanu. Allahu waliyul ladina amanu. Allah is the guardian of those who are on the point of iman. One more thing I would like to briefly mention. There is Islam and there is iman. When we see the signs of Allah within ourselves and outside ourselves, we come to the conclusion there is a creator who deserves that we submit to him. And we submit to him. This is Islam. Our belief in Allah starts with Islam. In Quran, it is said, قَالَتِ الْعَرَابُ آمَنَّا. Allah is addressing Rasulullah. These Arab Bedouins say that we have reached the point of Iman. قَالَتِ الْعَرَابُ, the Arabian people, they say that we have reached the point of Iman. Tell them they should say, we have accepted Islam. Iman have not entered their hearts yet. When we see the signs of Allah, we come to the conclusion there is a supreme creator, the infinite being of this universe, and he deserves for us to submit to him, and we decide to 100% submit to him. And we say, tashahhud, we become Muslim. And when we fulfill our promise of 100% submission, our words, our actions, our behavior, our attitude, our movements, our likings, our dislikings, our life and our death, everything is in the direction of submission to Allah. Practically, we become submitted to Allah. That is the point when we reach the point of Iman. Allah is not saying that I am the Lord of Muslims. He's saying, Allahu waliyul, he's the guardian. Allahu waliyul lazina aman, when we reach the point of Iman. So this is just a brief history of how is the journey of Islam. And the Iman, and then the followers of Ahlul Bayt, alayhimus salatu wassalam, it is not just with a tongue that we say, oh, I believe in Amirul Mu'mineen, alayhi salatu wassalam. This is the path of Amirul Mu'mineen, which clarifies the tyrants, the suppressors and oppressors of the universe to make a space for the believers and those who want to believe in Allah, and slowly and gradually convince them with their actions, with their behavior, with their attitude. So this is what happened at the time of Rasulullah. Everyone joined Islam. But to reach the point of Iman, there were some selected people around Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam, like Hazrat Salman, like Abu Zar, like Misam, and these personalities around Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam were special in their belief, in their thoughts, and clearness in their vision. So with that, these personalities became a hurdle in path of those who wanted to grab power in history. After Rasulullah, whatever happened, the Khilafat and the Imamate, two paths. But Islam got divided into two parts. Then the Khilafat, they started conquering lands. Islam says conquered hearts and mind and soul of the people by convincing them, by your character, by your humbleness. This was the path of Hazrat Fatima Zahra, which he selected. This was the path of Amirul Mu'mineen, which he selected. They went through Karbala. Whatever happened in Karbala, because Yazid knew that if Imam Hussain doesn't accept him, there is nobody who's accepting from the lineage from Adam till Rasulullah. And all after that, though this pious line will not accept it, which he couldn't accept, and this carried on. This is a different thing. I would like to, if I get another chance, I will mention why is this that the Bani Israel killed Anbiya. What was the way that 11 of our Imams got martyred? Why was this that they didn't leave the Imam? Imam were not coming, hindering their rulership, the worldly rulership. But even then, Imam Musa Kazim was put in jail for 14 years. What were the reasons behind them? Why today there are groups of people searching for Imam Zaman, Arjallahu Ta'ala Farajo Sharif. You go onto the YouTube and search for Imam Mahdi, you will find too many Western NATO groups searching for Imam Zaman. Even some people say that there was a blast at the shrine of Imam Hussain Askari alayhi salatu wasalam. One of the objectives they wanted to get the DNA of Imam Hussain Askari alayhi salatu wasalam, so that when Imam Mahdi comes, they would know that he is the real Imam Mahdi. Why are the people, what is this lineage coming and who are following them? At Rasulullah's time, Hazrat Hashim was sent away from his family to grow up so that he can take care of himself. Hazrat Abdul Muttalib was sent away from his family. Rasulullah was sent away to Hazrat Halima Sadiya to live there in a poor environment so that nobody knows where is Rasulullah, because there was a lineage who are following these personalities and this nur throughout, and they are still following them. So this we see at the time of Hujjaj bin Yusuf, the Umayyad Caliph, who was the governor of Basra. He was anti-followers of Ahlul Bayt. He killed a lot of Sadat, not because of their race, that they were offsprings of Rasulullah. No, because Sayyid meant taqwa, Sayyid meant piety, Sayyid meant knowledge, Sayyid meant wisdom, Sayyid meant the real Islam, the proper Islam, and they were spending, so they were following them. And the Sadat at that time, they used to go away to the far-flung area. In some sayings, it is narrated that Imam Hussain ﷺ told some of his followers to leave and go to the deserts and far-off lands. And we came across some people in Balochistan who were Sunni, following Sunni, but they had black flags. So some ulama went there for tabligh at long time back, and they asked him, why do you black flag? So we are the ones who Imam Hussain told to go to far-off lands to protect their deen. So they were known as those who Imam Hussain ordered to go to faraway land. So the Sadat of at that time, they left the Hijaz and those areas. This, we know that the followers, Hujjaj bin Yusuf was very brutal with Sadat. He killed so many Sadat, innumerable. And that's why he was elevated by Banu Umayyah's rulers, because they were brutal against the followers of Amir al-Mu'minin. They thought that the followers of Ahlul Bayt are a threat to them. So when they left Hijaz and that area and the Basra at that area, some of them came to Sindh. Sindh was at that time ruled by the ruler who was in Dibal was Raja Dahir was the ruler, and Dibal present day, it was something in vicinity of present day Nawab Shah in Sindh. This area was the center of the Sindh rule, the what we can say the kingdom, or we can say the Rajdhani of Sindh. So, and Raja Dahir was the ruler. So when the forces of Hujjaj bin Yusuf followed them, the forces of Raja Dahir fought with them and protected those Shias, and the Shias were the first one to come. They have come before Muhammad bin Qasim, they had come. But when some of the Sadat were being followed by the forces of Hujjaj bin Yusuf, they had a confrontation, and some of their soldiers, even the history tells us, they were imprisoned by Raja Dahir. So he sent Muhammad bin Qasim to fight Raja Dahir, and Raja Dahir was fought. They had a battle. So these were very brutal fighters, and they were well trained. They had been fighting with in different areas, and with big army. When they came, Raja Dahir was defeated and he was killed. He was beheaded, and his hand was sent by Muhammad bin Qasim, who was the nephew of Hujjaj bin Yusuf, to Hujjaj. The head of Raja Dahir was sent to Hujjaj bin Yusuf in Basra. At that time, he was ruling Basra at that time. So this is the brief history, as we see that Muhammad bin Qasim is not the one who brought Islam to the subcontinent. Islam came with those Sadat who came here. That's why we see in the Sindh vicinity, there are too many followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu wassalam. And they accepted Islam, they accepted the Tashayyu, they accepted the norms of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu wassalam. This is how Islam entered the Middle East. This is, I want you to make the correction that Islam was not brought in by sword of Muhammad bin Qasim to the subcontinent. Now, Islam then spread, Islam being the logical and rational school of thought, and the teachings of Ahlul Bayt were so rational and so logical that it was accepted by too many people. If Islam would have been spread by logic and rationality as the Prophet ﷺ did in his own time, today the whole world, if the Hijaz could have converted in 23 years, Rasulullah was able to convert the whole Hijaz into Islam. So if the same pace and the same mean and the same type of Islam was spread by logic, by rationality, the whole world would have accepted Islam. But we see in the subcontinent, it was not like that. After Rasulullah, they started conquering land, and they thought that we are conquering more land, more people will become Muslim by sword and by force. No, Islam is spread by logic and rationality. Quran says, do tadabbur, do tafakkur, think on it. Go get the deeper knowledge in it. And Islam doesn't say that you should kill people. Killing one person is like killing the whole humanity. Islam is not for wars. Islam is preaching by humbleness, by purity of heart, mind, and soul, and getting linked to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this path, when this was adopted, when India was divided and a separate homeland was created, there were too many renowned Shias who took part in that mission of creating Pakistan. And when Pakistan was created, here also we see that the Shia were playing a very, very positive role in well-being of the people and upgrading of the country. Now we see, I would not go into the too many details. There were too many. There was all the time Shias were confronted by those powers who wanted to become the rulers and who wanted to suppress and oppress others. Shia used to stand in front of them. The first thing that happened, hundreds of Shias were killed in Tehri, in Sindh. And that was the first thing. Then more than 100 people were martyred, Shias, just because they were Shias. And then the things continued. At the time of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, the people, the Shias, were mostly supporting him because of his name as Zulfikar Ali, and he was himself considered that he was supportive of the Shia teachings also and Ahlul Bayt, and he was looking for upbringing of the poor and suppressed and oppressed people. So obviously Shias joined him. When Ziaul Haq overturned him, and after the mutiny, he took the power, he himself got linked, and in that mutiny, there was a link of Saudis. Saudis had played a very negative role in the history. In 1805 to 1806, they conquered Medina, and they raised the shrines of Ahlul Bayt there for the first time. But then the Turkish army of the Khilafat Osmania came, and they got back the Medina and everything. But again, they confronted with the Lawrence of Arabia supporting him and the Western powers supporting him. And they came and they grabbed the power in Hijaz, in Medina and Mecca and all that, because they knew that if Mecca and Medina is taken away from the hands of Khilafat Osmania, Khilafat Osmania will no more be able to stand. And this is what happened. And in 1920 to 1926, what they did, they raised the shrines of Ahlul Bayt in Jannatul Baqi. Jannatul Baqi was the graveyard which was nominated by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself to be the graveyard of the Muslims. And there were shrines of very noble personalities, like the uncle of Rasulullah, Hazrat Abbas, like 4 of the Imams. We have got the shrine of Imam Hassan there, shrine of Imam Baqir there, shrine of Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, shrine of Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, shrines of Ummahatul Mu'mineen there. But all of them were raised. The shrine of the mother of Rasulullah, Hazrat Amina, was raised. The shrine of Hazrat Khadija was raised in Jannatul Mu'alla, Jannatul Baqi, and all this. And the Shuhada of Badr and their shrines were raised. Everything was raised just in the name of Wahhabiyah. And Wahhabiyah is something which came before that. There were other Muslim rulers who were Muslim, but they were not against the sanctity of the household of Rasulullah or Rasulullah himself. They used to praise Rasulullah. This is after the Wahhabiyat came, they started putting a question mark on the personality of Rasulullah and desecrating him by raising the shrines and bulldozing the shrines of the near and dear ones. And we see after Wahhabiyat came into existence, what is the conditions of the Muslims today? So, cutting the long story short, when General Zia-ul-Haq came into power in Pakistan, he had special links, and the Saudis had a special link in taking away Zulfikar Ali Bhutto out and bringing in Zia-ul-Haq, who was a type of, we can say, Deobandi school. It was following Deobandi school of thought, which is closer to Wahhabiyya. And then he was supported to a great majority. And Shias always stood against him. Like there was a convention in Islamabad because he said that everybody should pay zakat. Now, paying those zakat the way Zia-ul-Haq wanted us to pay and wanted the Muslim to pay, even in the Sunni fiqh, it is not right that everyone should pay zakat. You have got a money, you have taken a loan, somebody has got a money for his daughter's marriage in bank, and in the morning he comes there, oh, your zakat has been deducted. You can't deduct a zakat because without the niyyah of the person that he said, this is my zakat, and he hands over to anyone. But Shias were the only one who confronted Zia-ul-Haq and his rule and his tyranny and his suppression and oppression and stood against it. And we had a convention there, and Zia-ul-Haq has to stand and has to make an agreement with the Shias. But he himself, he got the idea that the Shias stood against me. So now he pulled up his sleeves and he came across and he started suppressing and oppressing Shias in every form. They were not allowed to come into the government offices. And if there were someone, they were just thrown out away, or if they got retired, nobody, they started putting a gag and blockade on the Shias to come into the office. This was the time when the revolution, Islamic revolution, came in Iran. So that was another point that the world powers, they got, and they thought this is a new system emerging. And the system emerging, the name was Islam. There were too many other revolutions in the world. The French Revolution, the Chinese Revolution, and there were many other revolutions, but this was the only revolution which was in the name of Ahlul Bayt, in the name of Islam, and in the name of the true Islam. So that was a challenge for the world system, but it started growing up. So they asked Saddam to attack Iran first, and then there was a war. So this war, after the revolution in Iran, the first supporters in Pakistan for the revolution were not the Shias. I am witness to that. At that time, I was doing engineering in Karachi. I didn't have too much knowledge about what Imam Khomeini says and what are teaching. Yes, we did used to listen to the news that Imam Khomeini had come back to Tehran from France. We did have that in the newspaper. But I was once traveling in a tug where we used to have to go to the Menorah workshop for our work experience. And when I was traveling there, I saw the people from Jamaat Islami was supporting the Iranian revolution. And they were the main supporters of, so the Western countries, the Americans, they came to know that, oh, the next revolution, the chance is that the Pakistan will be the next place where the revolution will come. So they started the Sunni Shia thing, and the Wahhabiyat came in, stepped in. Nobody used to listen to Wahhabiyat at that time. I remember there was a time when somebody put on the poster of Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab's tafsir of Quran in Lahore. People tore that out. They threw that. We don't want Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab here. Then somebody confronted the Imam of the Badshai Mosque in Lahore, and there was a big hue and cry, and people stood that we don't want any Wahhabi Maulvi coming here. So, but at the time of Zia-ul-Haq, they again pressed and suppressed, and they brought in the Wahhabi Maulvis, and they opened the madrasas and everything. Shias were the one who confronted them. First confrontation with the government was at the time when they wanted to that everyone's zakat should be deducted, and that had to be used on tabligh of Wahhabiyat, because Zia-ul-Haq was linked. He was the only ruler of Pakistan who made maximum number of Hajj and Umrahs every year. He used to go there, get their advice, and they used to act according to them. And then there was Afghan Jihad. They turned Afghan Jihad into Wahhabiyat. They turned the Kashmir Jihad into Wahhabiyat. and they tried to turn Pakistan into Wahhabiyat. So that Shias were confronting them. Then there was one more thing. In the meantime, that he said he had a referendum. He had a referendum that if you want Islamic rule, I will be the ruler for 5 years. And I remember at that time, Shaykh Arif Hussain Al-Hussaini was leading the Shias. In that heart, he had ordered that anybody who confronts this message of referendum, he will be put into jail. But I was with Shaykh Arif Hussaini. We traveled, started from Islamabad, right up to from Punjab, Sargoda, Khushab, Multan, Sakkar, and then Hyderabad, and then Karachi. As Ziaul Haq was doing his journey, we had a journey with Shaykh Arif Hussaini, and every place Shaykh Arif Hussaini confronted that Islam is a different thing, and you can't say that if people want Islam, I am your ruler. This was the referendum. If you want Islam, I'll be the ruler for 5 years. There's no link between that. Islam is a different story, and your rulership here is something different. But who came into the forefront were the Shias. And because of all these things, Shias were subjected to the tyranny and suppression and oppression. Sipahi Sahaba was created at the time of Ziaul Haq, like other organizations which were created to suppress opponents of Ziaul Haq. This was to confront the Shias. And obviously, the Western countries had a role in that. And then this Shia carpet and all that stuff, that came up. And with that, nearly in 17, 18 years, more than 18,000 Shias were martyred, selected ones, engineers, doctors, high posted. If you kill 17,000 people from a community, elite one, lawyers, educated ones, what is left in the community? This is by the grace of God that Shias are surviving till today. And they are not giving up. They have given up their blood. They have given up their children. Their husbands have been martyred. In thousands, they have been killed. In Parachinar, in Hazara Shias of Baluchistan, in Quetta, in Multan, in Lahore, in Islamabad, in Peshawar, every year, and any city you take the name, Deir Ismail Khan, Karachi, Hyderabad, anywhere you go, you find the Shia blood is spilled there. Why? Because Shias are meant to sacrifice and stand in the path of suppressors, oppressors, and tyrants. This is the letter. Shaykh Arif Hussaini changed the tune. It was a normal organization called Tehreek-e-Nafaz-e-Fiqh Jafariya. He turned it into a revolutionary organization, and that revolutionary organization and theme is still continuing in the hearts and mind and soul of the people. I think I've taken a lot of time. I don't know how much time I have got more, but we can give up more things in question and answer sessions. And if we have got in future, we have got some time, we can elaborate more on these things. And if I've overstepped the time, please forgive me.
Thank you so much, Sheikh. That was very insightful. Honestly, the way you took us literally from the time after the Holy Prophet, and then after that coming to Pakistan. Just few clarifications, because I do know we have a lot of mixed audience here. Sindh, what Sheikh mentioned in his speech, is a part of a certain part of Pakistan. It's a province, so you can assume it as a massive British county, I would say. And Sayyid was referring, Sheikh was referring to Sadat. Sadat is referred to the families of Sayyids, and I believe the one you were mentioning is literally the direct descendant. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's like the second descendant of Imam Hussain. So those who moved from Pakistan,
the offspring of Amir al-Mu'minin Ali alayhi salam, and born from Hazrat Fatima Zahra are Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain, and their offsprings, they are known as Sadat, and considered in the time of Rasulullah, they were referred to as Yabna Rasul, like Imam Hussain and Imam Hassan. People used to call them, whenever they used to call them, they used to say Yabna Rasulullah, oh sons of Rasulullah. So Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain and their children, they are known as Sadat in the wider spectrum. And they we have got, like in Imamat, in the Isna Ashari, we have got 12 Imams. All of them are one after another the sons of the descendants of Rasul. Like Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam was nominated by Rasulullah. Imam Hassan is the son of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Imam Hussain is the son of Imam Ali. Then Imam Zain al-Abidin is the son of Imam Hussain. Imam Baqir is the son of Imam Zain al-Abidin. Imam Jafar Sadiq is the son of Imam Baqir alayhi salam. Imam Musa Kazim is the son of, they are son of one after. And the last one, everyone in the Ahl-Sunnah also believe in Imam Ali, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussain, Imam Zain al-Abidin, Imam Jafar Sadiq, and Imam Mahdi. So Imam Mahdi, as I say, that is the joining link where everyone, the Sunnis also believe 98, 99% of the Ahl-Sunnah, they believe in Imam Mahdi. Shia believe in Imam Mahdi. So the Sunni schools of thought went to Khilafat Rashida after Rasulullah, after Saqifa and all that. If we get time later on, we can discuss that in a positive manner. It's nothing, this is what history has given us. But now our duty is to focus on Imam Mahdi and coming back of Imam Mahdi, which is a unifying factor among different other factors that we can join together and look. If there were differences past, leave that to the past. The future is Imam Mahdi. So why not to concentrate and focus on that so that we can sit down together and present give a gift of Rasulullah. Ya Rasulullah, we got divided Islam and we try to unify Islam in the name of yourself, in the name of Imam Mahdi. So that will be a good gift for Rasulullah. With all our differences, we sit down together and we work for the Islam, because this is the era of Islam and Islam is being confronted. The enemies have joined hand. Why not the Muslims join hand with each other?
Yeah. No, of course, 100%. And I think what you mentioned is a very important point, you know, to working towards unity going forward, inshallah. And also just going back in the history, the way you mentioned very beautifully about how Sayyids ended up and the Shia ended up with the Sayyids in the subcontinent. I think it's quite visible, you know, when you travel from Iraq to Iran to Pakistan to India, you can see there are a lot of graves of direct descendants, like the second descendant, direct descendant. And that kind of shows how they were literally migrating because of the oppression they were facing on the hand of the oppressors. So just to link back, because some of people might not be aware, if you can just tell us a little bit more, who was exactly Muhammad bin Qasim, and when was this? Like, how long ago was this? And what is considered generally, like, people consider him the savior of Islam sometimes. Well, however,
I think it was, if I'm not wrong, it is in 730, the Christian calendar, when he came, and he was the nephew of Hujjaj bin Yusuf. Hujjaj bin Yusuf is known for his brutality towards the followers of Ahlul Bayt, towards the offsprings of Amir al-Mu'mineen. You know that when Bani Umayyah came into power, they used to do la'an on Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam. And that thing continued during the time of Muawiyah, then after that in the time of Yazid, then after that it stopped at the time of Khalif of Banu Umayyah. Umar bin Abdul Aziz, when he came to power, he stopped this thing. He said, this is not permissible in Islam. This is anti-Islam thing. After Jummah, you start cursing Ali alayhi salam. You start saying La'an on Ali alayhi salam. This is not Islam. He stopped it. And we see that among the Banu Umayyah, the shortest time period of rulership was that of Umar bin Abdul Aziz, because the rest of them, they were on the same lineage. Anti-Ahlul Bayt, their stance was. So this should be kept, inshallah. I'm trying to come to the forefront and we discuss the history of Banu Umayyah, Banu Abbas. Banu Abbas came into power in the name of Karbala. They wanted to take the revenge of the blood of Imam Hussain. But we see how many Imams they killed themselves. Imam Musa Kazim ﷺ was poisoned in his time. Imam Raza ﷺ from Hijaz to Iraq. From Iraq, he was sent to the other corner of Persia, Khurasan, which is Mashhad. Their language was different, their culture was different, just to cut him off from the Arab people and put him in the area where the culture is different, where the language is different. But we see today, Imam Raza is one Imam in Persia, but that nation stood up just because of those teachings. They brought a revolution in the name of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam. It can be, people can have different ideas about the revolution, but the revolution did come there. And now we see that Iraq, they have got Imam. So it is like even the shrines of the Imam, they take it as a challenge to their rulership. the worldly powers, because the tyrants, the tyranny, the suppression and oppression is always confronted by the teachings of Islam. From Adam to Nuh, from Nuh to Fir'aun, Namrud, Shaddad, Abu Jahl, Abu Lahab, all of them were confronted by the teachings of Islam. And the true Islam was preserved, and the banner was taken forward by the followers of Ahlul Bayt, whether it was by Amir al-Mu'mineen, who was martyred in the mosque, whether it was Imam Hassan, who was poisoned, whether it was Imam Hussain والسلام, who was martyred in Karbala. Imam Hussain knew he will be martyred. When in the last time they were confronting him, and they would say, you know what is your fate going to be? And Imam Hussain himself told that I can tell you that the pieces of my flesh will be spread on this desert. My body will be trampled. You see, their hatred for the family of Prophet was such that they not only brutally killed Imam Hussain, his body was trampled by horses. His ribs were broken. His pieces were shattered. And then Hazrat Sayyidah Zainab was made to march by the dead body of Imam Hussain just to break her will. Her will didn't break down. And what did she say? He said, Allahumma taqabbal minna hazal qurban. And some people say, qalilun min al qurban, a small sacrifice. Please, oh Allah, please accept my small sacrifice of Imam Hussain towards you. Imam Hussain is not a small sacrifice, but when you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the infinite, everything is small. So the humbleness of Hazrat Sayyidah Zainab, when the dead body of her beloved brother is lying there, and she says, Allahumma taqabbal minna hadha al-qurban. These are the teachings. Yeah. When Ibn Ziyad in Kufa, he says, oh, listen, see, did you see how did Allah wrath come on to you? How did Allah make you zalil? And Sayyidah Zainab, what does she say? Ma ra'aytu illa jamila. I didn't see anything but the beauty from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is how they confronted the tyrants and the suppressors and oppressors. Today, Yazid's name is nowhere. The teachings of Islam and Ahlul Bayt, I would say the true teachings. I'm not saying there are different people who see Imam Hussain in different angles according to their own mental level. But the teachings of Ahlul Bayt are so pure. You will never find Shi'as going and confronting and making war and killing and brutality there. You will always see logic, rationality, and presentation of their sacrifices. As you see in Pakistan, 17,000 have been martyred. Every house has got someone near him or dear him or within his vicinity got martyred. But you don't see confrontational mode in the Shias. You don't find Shias killing the Sunnis. No, we know that it is not the Sunnis who are killing. This is a hidden hand who is killing Shias, because people are seeing that the world systems will shatter in front of Imam Mahdi, and Shias will be the main supporters of Imam Mahdi. That's why they are confronting Shias everywhere, whether it's Iraq, whether it's Yemen, whether it's Syria, whether it's any other part of the world.
Yeah. No, very beautiful. I think you also mentioned about saying that.
Sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but essentially in the beginning, since we're on the Q&A period, some people have sent me questions in private, not knowing that they're meant to send them to you, if that's okay. So shall I just read my one question, which has come to me in private?
Yes,
and then you can take over, inshallah. So essentially, Brother Tanvir, I think, has asked, let me find it, who killed Shaheed Allamah Sayyid Arif Hussain al-Hussein, and is it possible that it was Zia's order? And what was the major impact of the incident and impact on Shi'as after Zia's death, considering Zia died in the same month?
I think personally, Ziaul Haq himself was not personally involved in the martyrdom of Shaheed Arif Hussaini. But it was the world power. Americans might have been involved indirectly, CIA. The Saddam's forces were involved in it. Saudis were involved in it, in the martyrdom. Yes, there were some people who were involved who were linked to the army, but I don't think that Ziaul Haq himself had, because both of them, they got killed as the same thing, you know, like they killed Shaheed Arif Hussaini, and they killed Ziaul Haq also. But Ziaul Haq, I don't doubt that he personally himself was involved in the killing of Shaheed Arif Hussaini. I have got some facts which I know. So, but these powers, they were definitely involved in it. and they wanted to get rid of all this thing. They wanted to get rid of Ziaul Haq. They wanted to get rid of Shaykh Arif Hussaini. They wanted to get rid of the unity of Shi'as in Pakistan.
No, 100%. As we are speaking about Sheikh Arif, and you are someone who has spent a lot of time with him, Sheikh, if you can remember any incident, because we have a lot of students present here with us, which can benefit these students from the life of Shahid Arif, what he used to do, or something along those lines. If you have an incident to share, inshallah.
You know, sometimes the nations move 1 year forward in 100 years, and sometimes people move 100 years in 1 year. So with Shaykh Arif Hussaini, the changes he brought within 4.5 years of his time period when he was leading the Shi'as, he united the people across the country, from Parachinar to Karachi, from Gilgit-Baltistan to Quetta. Everyone was in love with Shaykh Arif Hussaini. I have seen with him when we went for the first time to Deir Ismail Khan, there was a small child about 13 years old, barefooted, and he was holding a banner written on the paper by his own hands. He was running with the car. Shia Qaum ka nara hai. This is the slogan of the Shias, of Shia people. Arif Qaid Amara hai, that our leader is Arif Hussain. He was running with the car. And I saw tears in the eyes of Shaykh Arif Hussaini. He said, I am in debt to these people. And when people used to make the slogan of Shaykh Arif Hussaini, see his humbleness. He always, many times he told me to go and tell them, don't make my slogan, don't take my name in slogan, what I have done for the people. When he did something for the people, he was not here to listen to the people. It was his humbleness which brought in the Muhajirs from Karachi, Sindhis from Sindh, Punjabis from Punjab, the Saraiki speaking from Multan, and you see the Gilgit and Baltistan, and Deir Ismail Khan, and every area, the people adored him. And with the scattered people, he united them into one big fist. And the first convention that he held in Minar, Pakistan, in Lahore, everybody participated. That was the biggest convention of the Shias on the soil of Lahore. And you know, at that time, people, they were not ready. Oh, how can we do it in Lahore? It's a very big ground. He said, who will fill this? Shaykh Arif Hussain said, you will fill it, inshallah. And this is what happened. And with that thing, the powers, the world powers came to know that if this unity continues, we can't afford another Khomeini in Pakistan. And they decided.
No, there's definitely a quality of a believer to attract other believers to them, which was quite visible from Shahid Arif's life. May God allow us to become like him so we can unite people as well. I'll go to the participants now. We have Sister Zara. She's been waiting patiently from quite a while. So I'm going to unmute her, and then inshallah, let's see what question she has.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much. So my question is actually from my dad. He was very close with Allamah Arif Hussaini, and we all know about Tehreek-e-Insaf. And he told me that at the time of Allamah Arif Hussaini, there were only kind of 2 subdivisions within Tehreek-e-Insaf.
Can you speak a bit loud so that I can hear you clearly, please?
Yes, of course. So my question is actually from my dad, and he was very close with Allamah Arif Hussaini. And he told me that there were only 2 subdivisions within Tehreek-e-Insaf during his time of rule. Do you perhaps know why Tehreek-e-Insaf has divided so much in current day Pakistan, and why, like in general, Shias amongst themselves have divided so much? Why is there not more political unity?
You know, at that time, as I remember, it was not Tehreek-e-Insaf, it was Tehreek-e-Nifaz-e-Fiqh-e-Ja'fariyah. That was the original name when Mufti Jafar Hussain became the leader of this organization, was formed to confront Ziaul Haq for the zakat issue. And it was only for the zakat issue that this organization was formed, Tehreek-e-Nifaz-e-Fiqh-e-Ja'fariyah, the movement for implementation of Fiqh-e-Ja'fariyah in Pakistan for the Shias. It was in the brackets that it was for the Shias, not for everyone that we wanted to implement. When Mufti Jafar Hussain had made an agreement with Ziaul Haq, and General Ziaul Haq didn't pay heed to fulfilling that agreement, Hazrat Marhum Mufti Jafar Hussain was annoyed with him, and he was not happy with him. And to an extent that in his last days, he was suffering from blood sugar, and government offered him to be sent outside the country so that he can be cured. He refused that thing that I've seen so much from the government of Ziaul Haq. I would not like to accept their offer. But when Mufti Jafar Hussain passed away, there was an organization. It had a structure. It had two main structures. One was the Supreme Council, which was held by ulama from different areas, and the ulama were leading that body of Supreme Council. And there was a Federal Markazi Council. Markazi Council was people from every city were included in that. But in the initial state, that the people were not complete, so there were ulama in the leadership of Maulana Safdar Najafi, who were going to different cities, and they were in Peshawar. When another meeting was held outside the parameters, and this organization had a constitution, had a body, and had other officials. Only the leader had passed away, but they joined together in Rawalpindi city. And in that meeting, they proposed, because I was at that time in Islamabad, we went to the leader who was selected in the other organization, Hamid Ali Shah, from Ali Masjid in satellite town, Rawalpindi. We went to him. He said, my name has just been proposed. It is not something that the people of Rawalpindi has proposed, that you should consider Allamah Hamid Ali Shah to be the head of Tehreek-e-Nifaz Fiqh Jafariya. So, but later on, he was brought in as the sole leader of Tehreek-e-Nifaz Fiqh Jafariya. Now, if an organization is there, its infrastructure is there, its constitution is there, nobody else from outside can come. But he was supported by some people. I don't want to, but I am witness to that. There were some people who were retired military officers who were there and who gave a boost to them. Then they had a convention in Dina, and after that they declared that we are he's the leader of the Shia. And Arif Hussaini was elected by the organization whose number of the people were from the Markazi Council, from Karachi till Parachna, from Quetta to Dubai, from Quetta to Gilgit-Baltistan, all the cities, their leaders, they got together in Bhakkar, and there he was selected, and he was elected there, and he became the leader of the Shia. So these two groups. After that, Shaykh Arif Hussaini himself tried a lot to bring unity among them, and at certain places he went to an extent that he said that I can give you an open letter, an open paper, and I can sign whatever you logically and rationally write on it, I will accept it. But Hamid Ali Shah didn't join them. But there was another division there. He tried, Shaykh Arif Hussaini, even at one time when the Shaykh Ayatollah Mahdi al-Hakim came to Pakistan, he requested Mahdi al-Hakim, because Mahdi al-Hakim knew Hamid Ali Shah, because Hamid Ali Shah had studied in Najaf. So he tried that Mahdi al-Hakim should play a role to unite everyone, and he tell him to get united. But as I know, I am witness to that. Maulana Hamid Ali Shah refused to meet Ayatollah Mahdi al-Hakim, and later he got martyred in Sudan. So this is what the story is going on. There's a long story, but the divisions are there. The divisions were after him, and there were other divisions also. But the thing is that if Amirul Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam says that you should not take off your eyes from the last rank of your enemy. If the big object is there, the small division, that doesn't mean anything. It is in the field. If your direction is the same as that of Ahlul Bayt, if your direction is that of Amirul Mu'mineen and Imam Hussain alayhi salam, these divisions doesn't mean anything. The confusions that come are only because we lose our direction and we lose our aim and objective.
Thank you so much for that, such a detailed answer. I think it goes a lot in the history of the organization. So I think Sister Zara has, if it's hopefully, if it's, I'll unmute you, if you can unmute yourself, Sister Zara.
Assalamu alaikum.
Aleykum salam. Feel free to ask.
Aleykum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So my question is around, you mentioned that Sheikh Arif managed to bring unity amongst not just Shias, but people from every background. So I wanted to ask, what principles, what in your opinion are the key principles or characteristics and ways that he managed to do that?
His humbleness was the first foremost thing, because whenever anybody becomes leader, even of a masjid, he thinks that I have become a too much big thing. I'm a big gun now. I'm a president now. So he started thinking of that. He was not that sort of a person. He used to give importance to everyone. Any pious person, he used to elevate him in the structure of the organization. Even he used to elevate the person who is pious on base of piety, on base of his knowledge for Islam, on base of his sincere work for Islam. He used to elevate people, not because of his personal relationship or his friendship or his personal likings or dislikings. No, his likings and dislikings were the sake of likings of Ahlul Bayt and likings of Deen itself. So that was one of the reasons that he was not being confronted by anyone, number one. Number two, his humbleness was there, his knowledge and his vision, and he was also a visionary. He was open-minded, he had good knowledge of everything. He knew what he was doing, and he understood what he was doing. And I saw him when he was confronted by the media and the journalists, he used to answer very precisely. In a small answer, he used to give a big answer. The most important thing is taqwa and his belief in Allah and tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were, I think, the main factors. His sabr, his patience, it was not something that he implemented on himself. He himself had sabr in himself. He was confronted at too many places in very negative way. He never used to give answer to them, and he used to have a smile for them, and he used to be. Remember, there was an who says some negative. He wanted to come near me, and there were a number of ulama, more than 100 ulama sitting there. He just went to side, his face turned red. And later on, when he was sitting in the car and someone said, "Oh, Maulana, how bad he reacted," he said, "Listen," he stopped him. He said, "Listen, whatever we're doing is with the tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't utter a word that Allah take away our tawfiq from us." This was his stance. His belief in Allah was 100%. His tawakkul on Allah was 100%. His patience was 100%. He was working for Islam minus his personality. He didn't think that he had got some personality or his ego or his personal thing. No, his person. And that's the ayah sharifa that is I recited, that among the people there are people who have sold themselves for the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was following Amirul Mu'mineen in those lines. These people who have sold themselves to Allah, then they don't belong to themselves. They don't have their personal inclinations. They don't have their personal likings and dislikings. Their likings, their dislikings, their everything is subservient to the likings and dislikings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam. I know this is a hard thing to do, but once this comes, this can bring unity everywhere. If I have submitted 100% to Ahlul Bayt and wish of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have submitted, we all can join together. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran, "Inna allazina kafaru sawa'un alayhim anzartahum am lam tunzirhum la yu'minun." Those who have negated Allah, not accepted Allah, "Ya, oh my messenger, for you it's equal. You give them good tidings of Jannah, or you scare them of Jahannam. Nothing is going to happen to them." The main point is submission, submission, and submission, and not 99%, but 100% submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is a difficult thing, but not impossible. This is the path of Ahlul Bayt. Imam Hussain had thousands of followers, but the selected one were only 72 who went to him with him to Karbala. We know what happened in Medina after Karbala. Thousands of women were desecrated. Hundreds and thousands of people were killed. They were the followers of Ahlul Bayt, but they were not with Imam Hussain. Only selected ones are there with Imam Hussain in Karbala, and that number is far small than people killed later on. So these people, we should try to become one of those, and the journey starts with submission. And I would mention again, 100% submission is the starting point of our journey towards Allah. And there we find Ahlul Bayt, there we find Hazrat Zahra, there we find Hazrat Masuma, there we find Hazrat Zainab Salamullah Alaiha, there we find Hazrat Sakina, there we find Hazrat Asiya, there we find Hazrat Maryam, there we find everyone. There we find the mother of Hazrat Musa alayhi salam. It needs sacrifice, it needs humbleness, it needs to listen to Allah, not dictate to Allah, Allah, I want this, I want this. No, there people say, Allah, what do you want? Like Imam Hussain said. Imam Hussain never said, I want this and I want that. One, Imam Hussain was among the 5 who went to Bani Najran. And if they would have raised their hands according to the priests of Bani Najran, the mountains would have dropped on them. But no, they didn't. Imam Hussain would have raised his hand in Karbala. There could have happened too many things, but he didn't say to Allah, Allah, I want this. He said, Allah, what do you want? You want Ali Akbar? You want Qasim? You want the hands of Abbas? You want the veil of Hazrat Zainab Salamullah Alaiha? What do you want? This is submission to Allah. This is what gives you, elevate you in the eyes of Allah and give you honor and respect. Although your body is trampled, but your message is far higher than that. And your message, it prevails in the world, in this world and in hereafter. And we are seeing now the name of Imam Hussain, everybody knows. Yazid is rotten in history. He is shattered in history. Imam Hussain is not. Imam Hussein's name is a grace for everyone, and not only for the followers of Ahlul Bayt, for every freedom fighter in the world. Anyone who stands against the tyranny, suppression, and oppression, we see Imam Hussain is ideal for him. And this is what the people in the world are getting together, and the suppressed and oppressed, and the mustazafin are getting together. This is the message of Imam Hussain, what I understand.
Thank you so much, Sheikhna. You know, honestly, like we're very sorry we've been taking so long. You know, we're taking so much of your time.
My brother, it's no problem for me. If there's no problem for you, for me, it's no problem.
Thank you.
You have blessed me with having this meeting with you. Allah bless you all. Allah keep you under His protection. Keep you under the protection of the veil of Hazrat Zahra Salamullah Alaiha in this world and in hereafter. And your parents who brought you to this stage of understanding, who gave you this elevation of understanding, inshallah.
Inshallah. Just as a sister has asked, and I can see, you know, a lot of people are curious about finding what Shaykh Arif. I will send a link in the chat which goes through the history of Shia since the independence of Pakistan, since the creation of Pakistan, and also focusing specifically on the life of Shaykh Arif for the people who are interested. It is in English, so you can listen to it and watch the documentary. Just to finish off, Sheikhna, you know, I know there are a lot of questions, but I'm just being wary of time as well. This final question, considering you are an activist as well, a Pakistani activist, alongside being a scholar. And, you know, these brothers and sisters here, when they see Shi'a oppression, such as the recent Shia Hazara killing, which happened, seeing them, and then, you know, you want to do something for them. If you have any advice, any practical step these brothers and sisters can do to raise voice against that oppression, so next time anything like that happens, they can contribute something from the universities, coming from different backgrounds, such as, you know, Iraqi, Iranian, Pakistani, any different backgrounds in university. So if you have any advice for the students, just to finish off.
You know, it's I don't have any better example, you know, but it's not a football match that we sit on sidelines and watch the match. It's to be a part of this present day game, which is what's going on. Get involved, number one. Number two, submission to Allah, 100% submission. everyone knows where I'm lagging behind. And everybody's lagging behind in different places, in different spheres. We don't need to point finger toward others. We need to point finger toward my own self. Revolution starts with the word I. Revolution means change. Revolution means for every movement, a change is necessary. If we confront change, if we resist change, a positive change, then we are resisting the path of Ahlul Bayt. And once we have sold ourselves to Ahlul Bayt, alayhi salatu wasalam, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we sell it out, then I don't belong to myself. Then my ego is zero. Then my other things are zero. And rest assured, this is my lifelong experience. Once you get sold to Allah, there's nothing. You can just give away everything in your life just for the feeling of a hand on your head. And that feeling of the hand of Allah is on your head, and the feeling of Ahlul Bayt beside you, your du'as being accepted, you being listened to. And I would advise one small thing. Whenever you are going to sleep, 10 minutes before that, open Quran, read one ayah or two ayahs with translation, and after that, talk to Allah like you talk to your mom, like you talk to your brother, like you talk to your elder, like you talk to somebody who has broken your heart. Talk to Allah. Allah, such and such guy broke my heart. He did bad to me. Allah, forgive him. And Allah, look after him and bring him to my state where he feels the pain of deen the same way I am feeling. Start talking that, and you will start feeling what you want to feel. Once you get the feeling that you are being listened to and you are being answered, then that feeling is much higher than anything you can give away. Have everything for the sake of that feeling. May Allah bless you and give you that feelings, inshallah.
Well, thank you so much, Sheikh, from everyone here present here, from both all the ABSOCs. You know, it was amazing to have you, and especially, you know, hearing all those thoughts and how you beautifully mentioned about, say, the Zainab as well. You know, when she was asked in the court of Yazid, what did you see? And then she replied, nothing, I saw nothing but beauty. And that kind of reflects what Brother Taqi Haider was mentioning earlier, I believe, regarding, he was giving the message of the families of the martyrs that, you know, the families of the martyrs say they become more determined by this, you know, when they see their family members getting martyred in these killings. So thank you so much to you and to Brother Taqi Haider for joining us, and for everyone else. Hopefully this session was beneficial for each one of you and gave you some insight into the history of Shias in Pakistan. So thank you from my side, Salaam.
Allah bless you. Don't forget all those who are not feeling well and sick, especially those suffering from COVID. And my son was very severely, he was in a very bad state. He was in hospital for 1 month. Alhamdulillah, he's back home. He's recovering, but I think recovery will take more than a month for him to recover 100%. Don't forget my son and all of those who are not feeling well in your du'as. And I would request everyone, please recite Amma Yujib 5 times for the cure of all those who are not feeling well. Inshallah, if you allow me.
Yes, yes.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibul mudtarra iza da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. Allah bless all those who are not feeling well with good health and relieve them from this COVID and other diseases, physical and spiritual. And Allah bless all those who have taken part in this and organized this event. Allah bless them with your special blessing. Keep them under your protection and bless them with the ziyarat of Imam al-Zaman. And may Allah bless all those marhumin and marhumat, ulama alam, shuhada Islam, with whose blessings and with whose hard work we have been able to do this. And please recite a Surah Fatiha for all our listeners, marhumin and marhumat, ulama alam, shuhada Islam, Surah Al-Fatiha, ma salawat. Allahumma salli.